Varia time. Let's go. For anyone who doesn't know, Tyler Oliveira, whatever the fuck his name is, he makes YouTube videos that are incredibly racist. Just the most racist videos that you can think of with the most racist thumbnails you can ever think of. Here's a good example. This is what the thumbnail looked like before, but he changed it, I guess. It said, I investigated George Floyd's, quote, murder. And then it's a picture of, I guess, like a mural. And it's pointing at it and saying fentanyl overdose, question mark. I love this content. I love it so much. Let's watch it. This will be so much fun, guys. Oh my god. I'm sure it'll be really well researched.
What did you see during the George Floyd riots?
It just has a quick wait before we get any further. One's if you know who this is, two's if you don't know who this is. Two's if you've somehow escaped this content for as long as you have. I'm so sorry for what I'm about to do to all the people typing 2. I'm so sorry. But here's a little bit of an idea, if you're curious, to the people typing 2. I asked Americans who they're voting for president, and it's a photo of someone who's fat with blue hair wearing like a pride shirt and a pro-Palestine pin. That's obviously photoshopped. And then it says, Trump is racist. And then here we go. I investigated London's knife stabbing epidemic. And it's a black person holding like a very large knife or a very large sword. I guess like a small sword, actually. Sorry. And then we've got here. I investigated the most violent city in America. And it's a picture of a black guy with a gun. Warning, must have gun. And then it's another one that's exactly the same, but it says, I investigated the murder capital of the world. I investigated the gun capital of America. That also is the same thing. Another black person holding a gun. Yeah, so just so you can get an idea of like the type of content that he makes and the type of rage bait that he creates. Every time he's talking about dangerous or bad cities in America, it's always at least one black person, sometimes multiple, holding guns. So you can get an idea of how great and wonderful of a person he is. Okay.
Minneapolis burning as riots exploded across America, fighting against police brutality and racial injustice following the death of George Floyd.
You want more of your people to die? You coward!
It was justifiable. Definitely a lot of outrage.
With as many as 26 million people who protested across America, with an estimated $1 to $2 billion in property damage, and over 10,000 plus arrests nationwide, the death of George Floyd caused complete chaos across America and the world, as peaceful protests turned to riots and looting. Was the death of George Floyd a racist white cop murdering an innocent black man?
There's a lot of evidence that's...
Let me just say a couple things. One, I would hope that police officers killing, just doing killings, regardless of whether or not you're guilty, should be enough that people riot. That is a good world to live in. It is a bad world to live in when cops get to execute people on sight and no one blinks. That is a world I don't want to fucking live in, where someone's death by cop is ignored by everybody, where we have gotten to a level of apathy where we don't give a fuck about that anymore. Second, I don't really give a fuck if George Floyd was no angel. Cops do not have the authority to fucking kill you when you're already in handcuffs. You are not a threat. You should not be enough of a threat to police officers that you need to be murdered by the police when you are in handcuffs with no weapons. If police officers cannot take you to a precinct despite you being in handcuffs and having no weapons, those police officers shouldn't be police officers. That's the point of putting people in handcuffs. They are no longer a threat.
Reports, in fact, that he did not. And I actually challenge people to come forward with evidence that he did.
Free Chauvin. Free Chauvin.
I want to put a knee on your chest for 13 minutes. Tell me what that would do to you.
Or was this the unfortunate death of a career criminal in police custody with a potentially lethal amount of fentanyl in his blood, an underlying heart condition, and the added stress of resisting arrest and being restrained by the police, leading his heart to fatally go into cardiac arrest and dying?
Get out of the car. I didn't know this. I didn't know. I can't choke. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Leading to this viral video we all saw, without any of the crucial context leading up to it.
They are alleging that he's got 2 milligrams of...
There could be all the context on the planet. He could have had 500 kilos of fentanyl on his body, on his person. There is no fucking universe where you should be killed by the police while you are in handcuffs. There is no universe where what happened past the point of him being detained should have happened. You could provide me with 100 million shreds of evidence against him on like, well, he actually murdered 10 people before this, and he actually had all these drugs in his car, and actually he was literally doing crack right before the cops showed up, and actually he said that the cops suck beforehand. I don't care. It's not the cops' job to kill people. I don't want to live in a world where cops are fucking executing people in the street. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in that world. The cops don't have the right to execute you.
of fentanyl in his mouth when he was first approached by Officer Lane.
What actually happened on May 5th, 2020, leading to George Floyd's death? Why was the body cam footage showing all this context withheld from the public for 2 months as the entire country burned in the name of racial injustice and police brutality?
It started with the tragic and senseless murder of George Floyd, and it extended through the week of righteous anger being expressed by community leaders and all people of conscience.
If you're feeling that sadness and that anger, it's not only understandable, it's right.
America is racist. It is not enough to be not racist. You have to be anti-racist.
Yeah.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
And if all the context was available, would America have burned down? Would the public fought to defund and abolish the police? And did these protests lead to meaningful police reform across America? I pulled up to Minneapolis 4 years after George Floyd's death to see what the locals thought. What did you see during the George Floyd riots?
Chaos.
Chaos?
Yeah. All that calls for, even the police, even the people that did that. Like, me personally, I wasn't a part of that.
I just seen people destroying everything, just going crazy, stealing things from the store.
Oh, terrible. I moved to Moorhead after that.
Oh, you left after you saw that?
Yeah.
It was that crazy?
Yes, it was. Seriously.
It was justifiable. Definitely a lot of outrage. People knew what was going on for a long time, but this was the first time it had ever been caught on camera that way.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Uncalled for. Go out there and protest, sure, but destroy the city. And Walsh didn't do a thing about it. Thing called National Guard in for a couple of days.
So I didn't see really much, but just like the smoke and the fires and stuff like that in the air.
Not quite. I wasn't there, but I saw it on the news.
Miriam's landed, thank you for the 2 months.
It was heartbreaking. I was born and bred here, so
it
hurt.
This is your place.
This is my city, man.
Well, I'm a Metro Transit driver.
All right.
It was a scary time right after the riots. In fact, I was working on a Nicollet garage. They were worried about all the buses blowing up, so they moved all the buses to the airport garage.
Just tearing up our stores. Nobody didn't have nowhere to go.
Won't someone think of Target's profits? Oh my God, guys.
To the airport garage.
Just tearing up our stores.
Guys, Target, they're gonna go out of business. They're gonna go out of business. Target's gonna go out of business, guys. Someone please think of the Starbucks. The Starbucks inside of the Target, guys. Someone please think of the Target. Please.
First, nobody didn't have nowhere to go. They had to go far out. Then when they got better, they built all everything back, and then everything started to be good.
No, crime got worse. More killing, lots of killing.
Do you think the George Floyd riots led to a...
The city's 260 reported gunshot victims is still higher than any year on record before 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic and murder of George Floyd upended everyday life. Violent crime rates remain 11% higher than a 5-year average before 2020. Yes, because absolutely, first of all, using a Google recap as your source is crazy. Second, yes, for sure, the COVID-19 epidemic had nothing to do, and it was obviously all of the evil people that were rioting.
a positive change here in Minneapolis?
No.
So roughly $500 million in property damage. Do you think that was justified? What happened?
Won't someone think of the property?
After his death?
No, I don't think it's justified, but it's understandable.
Understandable.
But the crime rate's worse, much worse.
I think it's gotten worse because there's been shootings, down here, downtown, and it used to be a beautiful city 30 years ago, you know?
Do you think the police feel less emboldened to do their job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit going up. We pushing the murder rate. That shit going up, not down.
It was sad, like the world, it was crying, you know what I mean? They wanted justice, you know what I mean? But they should have not teared all our stores up, you know what I mean? That was like messed up. We didn't have nowhere to go, you know? Like,
and apparently 60% of those property owners were uninsured. They lost it all.
Yeah, they did lost it all.
$500 million in damage.
That's crazy.
Since then, I think it's gotten a little better. I hope it has.
Last 4 years?
I'd love to see a source on that, on those stores being uninsured.
Stuff, yeah. I feel like it's been worse, yeah.
I think racism's a key topic right now. That's certainly gotten worse. The separation between everybody.
Like segregation here in Minneapolis?
Yeah, self-segregation. I don't know about Minneapolis, but in St. Paul, nightlife just never returned. There's still places boarded up.
When I was working with the police, I definitely saw more movement towards a better response, more accountability. We're making steps in the correct direction. It shouldn't have ever happened like that, but now that it did, at the very least, like many tragedies, let's have good come from it.
Sure. What are your thoughts on George Floyd?
Can I tell you something though, man?
Yeah.
What people did to goddamn George Floyd was a goddamn shame, man. They didn't have to put the knee on this motherfucker.
I think it's really sad what happened to him.
I believe what happened to him should happen to anybody, and that's all I can pretty much say.
George Floyd, I can't speak on a man I don't know, but it seemed like a big misunderstanding of all that was going on. There's been a lot of killings, cop killings, and there's a lot of times we can do things to get ourselves killed, so I can't speak much on it.
It's all a joke.
It's all a joke?
Yep.
In what sense?
He overdosed.
He overdosed on the fentanyl? Do you think the police was accountable for his death?
No.
No. You think so?
Yes and no, because
This is such like a... I can't believe this type of propaganda works on anyone at all. Like, this is such a show of anti-intellectualism. Just grabbing random people on the street and being like, isn't it crazy that everybody else thinks this? It's like, people are drinking raw milk, dude. People don't want to get vaccinated. No, I don't give a fuck what some Joe Schmo on the fucking street thinks. No, that is not a good source of information. Hello?
they mistreated him. In the backseat,
restrained him, but they had to put their feet in there.
In the backseat of their car, they found pills that he ingested. So obviously he overdosed. I read the toxicology report.
Everybody knows if you have any drugs at all, you overdose. If there are any drugs in your system at all, you overdose.
He was a kind, gentle man. I mean, he died over something stupid. He died over a counterfeit $20 bill. Putting your knee on his neck for 9 minutes, he just went too far. Chauvin just went too far. So.
Free Chauvin. Free Chauvin.
And why should he be freed in your opinion?
Because he's not guilty. George Floyd overdosed. Chauvin was using the proper techniques as demonstrated.
It literally says, place the subject into the recovery position to alleviate positional asphyxia. Once in handcuffs, get EMS on the scene quickly. This is to get them in handcuffs. He was already in handcuffs. Not that I'm defending this method, but the idea that you would even defend it when you don't realize that the purpose of it is to detain someone so that you can put them in handcuffs, because handcuffs are very good at eliminating threats. Hello? The method itself is to be able to put them in handcuffs.
Demonstrated in their book, and I also read the coroner's report, which showed no strangulation.
I heard he put a gun to a pregnant woman and robbed her, and I heard he's a drug dealer.
I don't care.
I heard he had fentanyl in the system. Would that change your perception?
I don't care. Fair trial. I don't care what he did prior to this. It is completely irrelevant. I do not want to live in a country where if you commit any crime ever, the cops are allowed to kill you the next opportunity they get. That sounds like a really fucking stupid system. That sounds like a really fucking stupid system. And that's not even getting into like slippery slope on how many innocent people would die under that system. I do not believe that cops should be jury, judge, and executioners.
Perception of him at all?
I don't know that guy, so I mean, if he did that, I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. I'm not a BLM guy, like, oh, I supported all this. I think all lives matter. I mean, it's pretty bad.
What if it was a pedo? Same thing if it was a pedo. I think that person should be arrested. I don't think that here's the thing. I've talked about this before. If you are the parent of a child who has been the victim of a pedophile and you show up at their door and beat the shit out of them, I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to intervene. Now, part of the reason I'm not intervening is because I don't want that smoke, but also 95% or 99% of that is because they had it coming. They had it coming. Okay? And as far as I'm concerned, that's fair game. You as a parent, legally, this is not legal advice. Do not take this as legal advice. This is my opinions, my personal opinions. If you are part of the victim or related to the victim and you decide to take matters into your own hands in a fit of anger, understandable anger, I'm not stepping in on that. I'm not stepping in on that. I don't want the police to fucking kill you. I don't want the police to kill anyone. I don't want the police to ever kill anyone. I don't want the police to be able to show up to someone who is unarmed, who is not a threat, and then fucking kill them. I don't want that, actually. I don't want that. And I think any instance where you are allowing some people to not have fair trial is bad. There should be no exceptions. Everyone should have a fair trial.
He got killed in the first place, but I mean,
The question is, what are your thoughts on the fact that they made a shrine for him that's an autonomous zone near the Cup Noodles where he died? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of messed up. It's like we're glorifying a criminal guy.
How is it being a cop here in Minneapolis? Is it tough? Is it easy?
Personally, I would say no, because if you're a good human being, you kind of, it's a good thing happens.
Sure. After hearing if the public thought the destruction of their city was righteous anger, I headed to the holiest site in Minneapolis, George Floyd Square, a force.
I'm so sorry. Wait. Wait. What is this chatter trying to tell me? Happy Trumpsgiving. Oh my God. Cringe, dude. This is why you Delulus lost the election. You think we like Kamala? Guys, this guy thinks we like Kamala. This guy thinks just because we dislike Trump, we like Kamala. Do you know who Tony Timpa is, or do you just live in a bubble attacking strawman positions? And then he copy-pasted this 5 more times. Let's pull him up to see what point you're trying to prove. He was an unarmed white man killed who was murdered in Dallas, Texas by police officer Dustin Dillard. Officers had responded to a call where he was requesting aid for mental breakdown due to the fact that he had not taken his prescription medication for schizophrenia and depression. Dillard pushed his body weight onto Tim on the ground for 14 minutes after he was already restrained, and officers ignored pleas that he was in pain and he was afraid he was going to die. His death was ruled a homicide due to the stress of being restrained and extreme physical exertion and toxic effects of previous cocaine use. No criminal charges have been filed, but in 2021, a judge ruled that the wrongful death lawsuit filed by Timpo's family had merit and could go to trial. The civil trial concluded in 2023 with the jury awarding Timpo's son with $1 million. I don't understand what your point is. Do you think I don't think that white people also die to the cops? At no point so far I have said that only black people die to the cops. At no point have I said that all cops only kill black people. I am fully aware that cops are power-hungry freaks that will kill anyone in their path. And I don't want them to kill anyone. I don't want them to kill white people. I don't want them to kill black people. I don't want them to kill anybody. Unless they are showing up to an active school shooter threat, I don't want them fucking killing people. Which, hilariously enough, when there's anyone ever with a gun, that's when the cops do nothing. That's when the cops are like, but I'm so scared. Oh, it's so scary. An unarmed person, yay, murder. I love murder. I am a cop and I love to murder people who are unarmed. I've said this many times. I don't think that the cops are fair to anyone. I do think that the cops are racist, and I think that they tend to mistreat black people more. But I also don't think that that's a controversial statement. You just talk to your white friends, talk to your black friends, and see how often they get stopped for bullshit. But realistically, the second that a cop feels like you are undermining their authority, there is a chance that they will just murder you. I've also addressed, by the way, the fact that violence from cops, unless you are in a relationship with a cop, happens way more often to men because women are seen as less of a threat. That there is sexism involved in cop violence. Again, unless it's domestic violence against your wife, in terms of strangers, you are way more likely to be threatened or detained or murdered by a cop as a man. Which, like, you can address all of these things. None of these ideas are inconsistent or incoherent with each other. Like, you can just believe all these. I don't understand.
Square block memorial to George that stands to this day that was once a cop-free autonomous zone completely.
How come Tony doesn't get the same justice then? I mean, his son was awarded $1 million. That's a lot more justice than a lot of victims get. I think that those cops should be in prison permanently. I think the cops that killed him shouldn't be still serving. I don't know if they still are serving or not. But I think that those cops should be in jail. But like, I can't make people care about this guy who died. What am I supposed to do? Like, that's also just kind of how movements work. A lot of people have to die first, or a lot of blood has to get spilled before there's one specific instance that gets media traction that balloons. Like, we did not get the 5-day work week without a fuck ton of people pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into getting us that. We did not get fire regulations and fire safety regulations in buildings until how many tens of people had to die? I'm sorry that this guy didn't get justice sooner. I'm sorry that he died. I'm sorry that these cops are probably not in fucking prison, even though they should be. But also, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about it or anyone else is supposed to do about it. Like, we're doing the best we can. That guy deserves as much justice as every single person who has been wrongfully killed by the police.
Completely blocked off the traffic for over a year and fortified with concrete barricades. What did the residents that lived in this holy zone think of their newly christened patron saint, George Floyd?
There is George Floyd. Right now we are walking into the occupied, liberated zone right now. A lot of art out here commemorating his death. Right behind me we have the Hand of Solidarity, Fire All Cops. Now we are approaching the mural. But before that is George Floyd. What are your thoughts on the mural? Do you think it's an interesting phenomenon that he's kind of like a patron saint?
He's become that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Good or bad?
Good. I
Good?
mean, what's good about it is it brings attention to things that have been put under the rug.
He's a legend. That's what I'm gonna say.
In what sense?
He actually, I don't know, but I don't know actually, for real. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. I heard he robbed a pregnant woman and was a drug dealer. Would that impact your perception of him, or he's still chill and a legend?
It's still the same. I would say. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this garden?
I think it's good for the for the neighborhood.
Okay.
I think it makes the transportation a little difficult.
Do you think it's questionable to memorialize a criminal, a guy who robbed a pregnant woman and was a drug dealer? Is that a questionable guy to make the guy? No. Here when things got a little crazy?
Well, when it first started, my birthday was after that. It was kind of scary, but
were a lot of the businesses out here kind of nuked?
Yeah.
Were they getting looted?
Yeah, everything got looted.
Do you think that's right?
It's messed up.
How's Minneapolis right now?
Quiet, rowdy. Around the first of the month, it gets really bad. During the day, it's okay, but at nights, it's really bad.
Okay. Just dangerous characters out there, people lurking?
A bunch of homeless people walk around. They sit in this bus stop.
Right here? They're doing fentanyl in here?
Knew this was something that started a conversation that was much needed.
Sure.
So wanted to come check it out. So pay my respects to Mr. Floyd. It's a tragedy.
Do you think he was a guy that should have been put in this sort of idle position right here?
I don't know that anyone would choose that for themselves. He is a martyr, just kind of powerful right now to be near the spot where he was killed. So just trying to kind of soak it all in.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think there's systemic racism in America?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if we look at our Constitution, non-whites being half of people, one of the powers, I think, of someone like Martin Luther King Jr., he didn't want to burn the place down, but he wanted to call America to be what it said it was, and that is a place for all people where all people are made equal.
So now open under new management. Let's see what's going on here. Hello. What are your thoughts on the murals and stuff being there? Does it help business? Does it hurt business?
It's okay.
It's okay?
Not so bad, not so bad.
Will the city let you move it?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. So we have George Floyd right there.
Like how that shop owner was like, fucking, I don't know, dude. It's business is business. It's business as usual. There's a mural out there? I've never seen it. Are you going to buy something or not? Are you going to... No, I just work here, dude. They literally just work here. Dude, you see this cat? You see this mayor cat? The mayor cat. Also, what does he want these people to say? Like, drug dealers are bad and they should all be killed. You're right. If you commit any crimes ever, we should kill you. What's the, what is he exactly trying to get out of these people? I don't... Huh?
There, not the most flattering photo, but nonetheless.
My thoughts on George Floyd.
Exactly.
The George Floyd instance was horrible, but that's been happening for a long, long time, and it's kind of crazy that it took somebody's cell phone to actually take hold to what actually happened. But George Floyd, that's some of the people that's around the hood in a way, though. And I'm not sitting there justifying saying that it's okay, but it's not okay. I really do hope that we move forward. All the murals and stuff like that is a little bit much.
He's almost like Jesus, is what I've noticed.
Yeah, but it's just
that, almost similar to the cross, right? Like that mural over there, he looks like Malcolm X or Martin Luther King.
Honestly, though, that's what's crazy about it, though, because that dude wasn't like that in a way. I'm thinking people are sitting there trying to take it and run with it because they're sitting there feeling like about time somebody said something.
Do you have any thoughts on what went down?
I was working on a route real close by.
Okay.
Co-workers were sending me pictures of white people with Uzis.
Oh.
And I knew those weren't Black Lives Matter people because...
Talking Antifa?
No. We're talking about people who wanted a race riot. They saw an opportunity.
Look at Tyler Hitler Vera, dude. He's so dishonest. He's such a disingenuous piece of shit. Oh, there were white people with guns like Antifa. No, not like Antifa, no.
Kind of just like the...
Are you saying white people came to fight black people?
We're ready to do that.
I see.
Just like, I don't know if anybody knows, but during the insurrection on January 6th, there was supposed to be a Black Lives Matter protest there.
Okay.
They got word of the insurrectionists coming in, and they stood down because they didn't want that to be about that. Same thing here.
I see. So the Proud Boys came to confront the...
Because we were inundated with cars and trucks with no license plates.
Interesting.
So
Whoa.
a lot of it was other people instigating things and really exploiting the racial tension.
$500 million in property damage in Minneapolis.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on those riots?
That guy was so based, dude.
Think it was purely stupid. Why would we ruin our own neighborhood if there's injustice in our neighborhood? There's better ways to actually take a different path.
This guy's based
and
as
then
shit,
what's
though.
crazy, after we burn everything down, you see a whole bunch of people coming around that normally don't.
People coming here as like white saviors. And,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though.
Sure.
It is just like, yo, where was you at
20 years ago,
before
30 years ago,
George Floyd thing happened? Because guess what? There was plenty of George Floyds that happened in the neighborhood.
I know during the time, LGBTQ plus sort of made it a part of their...
Because, like, wasn't the majority of the property damage caused by white people? There were a lot of videos of footage from people at these protests showing white people starting to make that protest become a riot. There were a lot of feds showing up. I think that it's also important to note that out of all of the protests that occurred, 96% of those protests were peaceful. So out of every 100 protests that went down, 4 of the 100 became not peaceful. And it's hard to see and it's hard to know how many of the non-peaceful protests became violent or became riots because of 1, police intervention, or 2, Fed posters, or 3, shit stirrers.
Movement as well. I've noticed that whenever something bad happens to the black community, it seems like other movements hijack it and make it about them.
You know what? I completely agree with that, though.
Okay.
Is because everybody is looking for a little bit of hype. Everybody's looking for a little bit media. It's been around for a while. Now all of a sudden you want to jump in.
Also, I had to deliver a block here, and I hadn't realized, but there was also a lot of indiscriminate tear gas throwing.
Okay, from the police?
From the police, just to liven things up a little bit, and I walked right into a cloud of tear gas.
Sounds terrible.
My tears
Remember
were
what I literally
shooting-
said?
Shooting straight forward. I had to
Okay.
go back to the station.
What are your thoughts on the murals and the memorials for George Floyd here?
Well, I'm hoping we can get a bona fide museum. This
Okay.
really needs to be commemorated. It needs to be noted what happened, what happens. This narrative is not usually told. In fact, the narrative from George Floyd has so blurred and so gotten confiscated by another agenda.
What is that?
As a Seattle resident who spends a ton of time near Chop Sauce Chaz, what Fox News portrayed what was happening in Seattle was 99% lies. Yes. This mailman is so fucking based, dude.
It's right into racism and all the things, you know, we don't want black people voting, do we? If you want to say black and you're Republican, you just say Chicago.
Is that real?
Yeah. You want to say gay, you say San Francisco. You want to say
Okay,
Jewish,
all right.
you say New York.
Dude, they
Also, I
accidentally
think some of
found
these
the
people
most
that are
based guy.
Abolish the police, defund the police. Was that a positive change they were pushing towards?
When you're in trouble, who do you call?
911.
911. And who's coming? The police.
911, hopefully, yeah.
So you need the police. You know, there's certain police officers that is bad and there's some police officers that's good, but like at the end of the day you have to think about it. It's a job and they have to get home too. They have a family. Because if I go out to my job and I know somebody that's trying to shoot me, I'm going to react in a little bit more hostile.
Okay, sorry. This cat was being so cute. I had to give him love. Guys, when something bad is happening to you, the next time something bad happens to you, I hope you'll rethink your ACAB statement when the police officer shows up an hour after the incident and then tells you there's nothing that they can do about it, shoots your dog and leaves. Okay? Then maybe you'll change your mind about the police. Then let's see who says what about the police?
Because if you're mentally thinking that you could shoot, let's just say a family member, a friend, somebody who bumps you wrong, and they already know that when you pull it up, they don't even like you, how would you take that?
Let's say I'm black, I get pulled over on a traffic stop. I don't know what goes through that person's head versus mine. Do you think there's a big difference culturally in the way police just kind of work?
To be quite honest, if I get pulled over, I do get a little bit nervous in a way. When they ask for certain things, and the way they ask is a little bit more hostile than others. When you come up to the car, hey, let me see your ID, and do extra stuff like, yo, let me see your hands, make sure your hands. But then let's be quite honest, because I was in a car where there was a couple of white people. And then when the cop came up, was like, hey, excuse me, are you okay? What's going on?
Oh, shit, okay.
When you really, really think about it.
It's just stupid because, like, just literally, if you just ask your white friends and ask your black friends and just hang out with your friends a little, you will see cops treat you very differently. Dude, cops treat me so well because I am just like non-threatening, ethnically ambiguous woman. Like, the cops are super nice to me because that's how cops are. That's literally just how cops are. It's just true. Whereas if you go and sit in a car with one of your black friends, or just ask your black friends and be like, how are your cop interactions when it happens? They will tell you it is straight to business. It's, let me put your hands where I can see them. Yeah. Can I get your ID, registration? Can I know what your ID, registration? Can I know why you're pulling me over? I don't have to answer your question. ID and registration right now. It's like, okay, God Emperor, I apologize for daring to question why I'm being detained. Am I being detained? So, anyways, yeah.
So you got to think about the neighborhood that you're in a way, though. They're doing their job.
And yeah, this is like the common experience. They either talk to me, white woman, in a parental way or in a flirtatious way. Yeah. But this is also what, like, privilege is. And this is also a good opportunity to use privilege. Aren't cops legally obligated to tell you what you're accused of? Most cops don't even know what the law is. Like, whether they're legally obligated to do something and whether they'll actually do it is just different. So, like, legally, you should be allowed to be belligerent to the cops. As long as you are not actively threatening them, you have a legal right to be belligerent. Like, you do not have to treat them like God emperors legally. In practice, if you even insult one a little bit, they'll just straight up arrest you and say you were resisting arrest. If they don't fucking kill you. Like,
it's a job. When you pull up to certain people, you got to be a little bit more cautious. I get it, because at the end of the day, they want to go home.
We lost journalism. As
We're
did the
talking
justice.
the mainstream media or independent journalism or both.
Pretty much all of it. Oh, everyone was happy with someone not answering anything. The most detailed conversation.
And also the best thing that you can do, by the way, if you ever see someone that looks like they are the victim of police brutality, is just take out your phone and record. I'm not saying to put yourself in harm's way or like to step in or whatever, but if you can, record.
We got about childcare from Trump was childcare is childcare. Okay. That's it.
Well, let me ask you a question then. You said we're talking about this race stuff, but that race stuff led to $500 million in property damage. Cities across America were burning. Who instigated that?
You know, why is your first reaction as a police officer is to gun down children? Trayvon Martin, was he 8, 10? Breonna Taylor, Missouri. She was asleep. Gun down. And you know, the best they did in that trial was property damage. The police committed property damage. Not even her life was worth it. Don't get me started on property damage.
Well, I'm saying the whole city was burned down. Like 6 people died in the protests. A lot of people went down. Yeah.
I really don't know what the tally was, who went down, but I can tell you the initial intent was peaceful. Like I said at the very beginning, you had people instigated. White people.
Dude, this guy is so fucking based. This guy is so based.
With Uzis are not Minneapolis liberals, okay? They're from somewhere else, driving cars and trucks without license plates. Well,
as it relates to George Floyd, though, you mentioned asking the hard questions. So there was meth and fentanyl in his system. The police officers.
Oh my God, I don't want to hear about that.
Why not? You don't think that'd be a contributing cause to his death?
So a cop is a jury, a judge, executioner,
No, I don't think that's the point. I think the point is, were there any other factors that led to his death? Heart disease, and then the question is, if
standing on your neck for 9 or 13 minutes, would I ask you, what had you had for lunch?
Well, that's not my
point. Would it matter? He was not a Girl Scout. I am so sorry. He wasn't the perfect martyr.
Yeah.
Okay?
But my whole point is, if the media, if you're saying this is a class war, and then in this very example, you witness the media create a race war almost overnight, and that racist white cop kills black men. There may have been some added layers of nuance to that, right?
Yeah, there were.
Including, you know, some drugs in the system, some underlying heart conditions.
So I want to know the perfect victim on both white and black sides, where the person slaughtered was an angel from God. Show me that.
No, I agree with you to some extent. I think
dude, he's cooking. He's cooking. He's cooking. He's cooking. Let him cook.
Sick of hearing what George Floyd had in his system.
But
Does
that contributes to the conversation of
be executed?
That's not my point.
Tell me, if you had a joint, should you be executed?
Absolutely not. I'm saying if the joint caused me to OD and potentially die, and then we vilify the entire police department across the entire country, and so there's systemic racism.
No, I want to put a knee on your chest for 13 minutes. Tell me what that would do to you without a thing in your system. Tell me. You think you could do 13 minutes without no oxygen?
Well, I mean, he was screaming, "I can't breathe," right?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever screamed with no oxygen in your lungs?
No. You've got the narrative just to your.
What do you mean? No, but I'm asking the question.
Someone pointed it out, but isn't Tyler supposed to be getting like interviews, not debate broing? Yeah. But the problem is he needs to build a little narrative for his little show.
Questions. No.
He should have stood up and said, "Hello, police officer, please don't do that to me. I am not able to breathe properly."
Sure.
Would that have satisfied you?
Well, he said he wasn't breathing before he was even touched, right?
Up in a suit and tie and said, "Please don't do that to me. I think you're violating my rights."
All I'm saying is if there's other underlying causes that would have contributed to his death, and we pin it on a broken police system or systemic racism or these fundamentally broken...
Racism doesn't exist, right?
That's not my point.
Well,
of course it does.
Let's look at the victim. Let's blame the victim.
Like, even in this universe where he died because of the fentanyl overdose, which is not what happened, to be very clear. There's literally a coroner report on it. But let's just pretend. Let's live in Hitler Vera's world where he died because of the fentanyl overdose. He actually didn't die because of the cops' behavior. The reality is he did not have a way to seek emergency medical care because he was detained. He could not help himself. He was physically detained. He was also in handcuffs. He couldn't call 911 to get an ambulance or an EMS if he wanted to. The onus is on the police officers who were on him for 9 minutes and none of them called an EMS. Literally a doctor testified that the cops strangled him. Just live in this guy's world for a second. Live in Hitler Vera's world where he dies of a fentanyl overdose. In my opinion, you caused George Floyd's death if he's consistently saying, "I can't breathe," and you can't be fucked to call EMS, to call emergency services, to call emergency medical services. You let that guy die in your care because you didn't give a fuck. You knew he couldn't help himself because you were detaining him, and then you did nothing to help him. Nothing. But that's not even relevant because he died because the cops fucking strangled him. Because he wasn't able to breathe because the cops literally had their knee on his neck. He literally couldn't breathe. Also, everybody in here, I don't know if anyone in here has ever experienced feeling lightheaded or like struggling to breathe. I've had it happen once or twice where suddenly I just feel really lightheaded and I'm like your heart starts racing and like you're like struggling to breathe despite there being nothing on you. It's a very terrifying if anyone's happened. If it's happened to anyone. I'm very lucky that it's only happened once or twice. If you've had a panic attack or if you've had an asthma attack or maybe like an allergic reaction that closes your air pipe, from forgetting the term, it's very, very terrifying. You have a few seconds or like a few minutes where you can tell someone, trachea, thank you, I can't breathe. Okay, I'm struggling to breathe. You have a few minutes of being able to say that to someone else. Because I've been in that position where I'm not really sure what happened. I woke up in the middle of the night and I think it might have been like a heat stroke or something. But I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like sweating and I was like struggling to breathe and my heart was racing. And it's just a very terrifying feeling. And I thankfully was fine regardless. But I had a roommate at the time. It was actually at the last day of Creator Clash. And I was able to grab my friend and be like, dude, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And they went and ran and grabbed me water and they went and ran and grabbed me like something cold to put on the back of my neck. And I was like, whoa, holy shit, dude. That was terrifying. Jesus. Whoa. So you know that you are struggling to breathe, but you have a few minutes of being able to ask for help. It's not like you immediately go from, oh, I'm struggling to breathe to, that's it, I can't breathe anymore. That's insane. That's fucking insane. Tyler's logic is so bad because if he could talk, he could breathe just fine. Like, what?
You know, police don't have any control over their guns or their guns. Okay, I gotta go.
No, all right, great conversation. See ya. It was clear people differed in their opinion of what exactly happened to George Floyd even 4 years later. But with the mainstream media seemingly in coordination overnight, labeling George Floyd's death a cold-blooded murder by the evil racist Derek Chauvin, while the other three officers...
Oh my God, this framing is so pathetic. The evil racist Derek Chauvin. No, I don't think Derek Chauvin was any more racist than any other cop, which is a little racist. I think he was a power-hungry cop. And I think he would have done it to a white guy. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's just stupid. I'm sorry.
Officers were just as guilty for standing by when it happened. Were these cops ever afforded a fair trial with due process?
I can't imagine being one of the other cops and then doing nothing. Seeing this guy saying, I can't breathe, and like, your coworkers are essentially killing this guy in real time, and you're just like, well, that's the job, I guess. I can't imagine that. Like, is that accessory murder? Yeah, which is what I think that they ended up getting. Their charge wasn't as severe as Derek Chauvin's, but they also caught charges. It's been so long, I forgot the exact charges that they caught. Also, to talk about due process after doing all of this work and trying to delegitimize due process.
Given the public's extreme involvement in the case, and with legitimate widespread concerns of the city being completely burned down if Derek Chauvin was found not guilty, and how important was the media in shaping public sentiment and the actual outcome of the Derek Chauvin murder case.
Despite what this court has ruled, I know we cannot hide our thoughts or intent from God, for we must give an account on the day we appear before God. Therefore, I must obey. I hold on to the truth that I did not commit these crimes. My conscience is clear.
After 3 years of reflection, I was hoping for a little more remorse, regret, acknowledgement of some responsibility.
Why was the body cam footage withheld from the public 2 months after George Floyd's death? And why didn't the media reassess the context leading up to Floyd's arrest, releasing the body cam footage for the public to watch themselves? Given that the only time I'd seen the police body cam footage in full and dissected at length in a documentary titled The Fall of Minneapolis, I met up with the investigative journalist who made it, Liz Collins, and her husband, who was president of the Minneapolis Police Union at the time, Bob Kroll, who in 2020 came to be known by the public as Bob KK Kroll. But real quick, Bob, what was your role here in the Minneapolis?
I think you just like uninstall once they start calling you Bob KK Kroll. I think it's just Jover for you. I think you gotta stop.
Police department 4 years ago.
4 years ago, I was the president of the union, the Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis president.
Take me back to May 25th, 2020.
That was Memorial Day. We just returned home from a long weekend away, and I got a call from Thomas Lane that said he was involved in a critical incident, and everything for me and everyone else changed around here.
Liz, what was your job here in Minneapolis?
So I was a longtime anchor and reporter for the CBS station in Minneapolis, WCCO Television. I'm from Minnesota, worked at that station for almost 15 years.
What were you doing on May 25th, the day George Floyd died?
We had just been coming back from a trip out of town and was at home when Bob got the call that there was this in-custody death involving Minneapolis police. The video surfaced on Facebook several hours later. Anybody who looks at the video thinks this is awful, this is horrible to watch, but you know, in Bob's role, and I've been a reporter, for 20 years, I always know that there's a lot more to the story.
The first phone call I got, I thought maybe it was an excited delirium case and someone had died in police custody, or respond to it as I did at all critical incidents. I go, just let me know if he survives or not, because these things, unfortunately are not that uncommon when they're dealing with people that are hopped up on narcotics. It could be an OD, it could be an excited delirium, could have been any number of things at this point. I briefly asked if there was any force used on him, and there was minimal, just restraining, no strikes, anything like that. And about 20 minutes later, Tom called me back and told me that the subject had been deceased.
And that was George Floyd.
There was minimal force used, and also the subject had been deceased. I see why they call you Bob KK Korn. What was his name? Incredible. Where are they walking to? Hell, I guess.
Yes. I went to the courthouse. They were clearing the scene and going down to our headquarters, downtown Minneapolis. Basically, our role there is, one,
the subject
officer,
killing
tell them
headquarters.
what's going to occur, what takes place. And generally, our priorities are get the officer photographed in his uniform as he was in the incident, surrender the firearm to the crime lab. If they want to see a police chaplain or anything like that, sometimes they're available. We would review all the body camera footage. Sometimes it's that night, oftentimes it's the next day, or maybe a day at the max, 2 later. It's always been made available within a couple of days.
And how long did it actually end up taking?
Well, in this case, we never got it.
But this is the very first time that in a critical incident that the press was not allowed to see that. Why taxpayers pay for body camera footage, right, or body cameras for all their officers. So I still don't have a very good answer to this day as to why they kept that body camera footage from the public for so long, because we know that there was so much more to this incident. Right away that they seem to want to keep this hidden for some reason. So then as a reporter, that almost raises more alarm that why are they manipulating this? Not only that, but it's very early within the first couple of days that I noticed that there are 2 pages that are mysteriously missing from the police training manual. This is after the police chief and the mayor start saying, whatever you see on camera there, that is not something that these officers are trained to do. That's not a recognized technique. And I just, as a reporter, go online like I've done many times before to check this out, and still to this day I haven't got a good answer as to why those 2 pages were wiped.
And what did you notice was missing missing from the police training manual?
So the policy in particular that was gone was the maximal restraint technique, the MRT.
Can you explain what that is?
So it's a policy. Basically, you hear Thomas Lane say it in the body camera footage.
Which says MRE, right?
Yes, and then in the interview with the FBI, he says, I may have said it wrong, but it'd be MRT.
Let's take him out and just...
What?
MRE.
I can't breathe. Here, come on out. Look at you, thank you. On the ground.
I appreciate that.
The police training manual.
Wait. So the policy...
Can you explain what that is?
In the body camera footage.
Which says MRE, right?
Yes, and then in the interview with the FBI, he
The maximal restraint technique shall only be used in situations where handcuffed subjects are combative and still pose a threat to themselves, officers, or others and could cause significant damage to property if not properly restrained. It's accomplished in the following manner. One hobble restraint is placed around the subject's waist. A second hobble restraint is placed around the subject's feet. Connect the hobble restraint device around the feet to the hobble restraint device around the waist in front of the subject. Do not tie the feet of the subject directly to their hands behind their back. This is also known as a hog tie. Weird that it doesn't say anything about like putting your knee on someone's neck. In fact, there's even stuff here talking about place the restrained subject on their side in order to reduce pressure on his or her chest and facilitate breathing. So, a couple things. One, this is about putting people in additional handcuffs. There was no additional handcuffing happening that I saw in all of the body cam footage that I saw. Two, how was he showing that he was posing a threat by saying, I can't breathe?
He says, I may have said it wrong, but it'd be MRT.
Let's take him out and just...
What?
MRE.
I can't breathe. Here, come on out. Look at you, thank you. On the ground.
I appreciate that, I do.
You got your restraint? Hobble? I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Yeah, this looks like someone who is a serious threat to those around him. The guy that insistently keeps telling us that he's struggling to breathe. This is very clearly someone who is a danger to himself, to us, and to everybody else.
Jesus Christ. I can't breathe.
Thank you.
I can't breathe. Stop moving. Mama. Mama.
Yeah,
Mama.
awesome.
Mama.
One of the front couches.
Mama.
On my right side bag.
Mama. Mama.
Get EMS code too.
You're the best guy.
All right.
In subsequent interviews with Derek Chauvin.
Was that supposed to make the cops look good?
Chauvin, which I've done while he's in prison, he talks about that's exactly what they were doing, MRT. All of the officers have said that's exactly what they were doing that day. If you look at the side by side of what was in the manual and what took place on 38th in Chicago. So it's exactly what these officers were doing.
And I had just...
The other problem, of course, with showing the manual and showing what the officers were doing, the problem with that is just because it's in a fucking cop manual doesn't mean it's not murder. It also says without direct pressure, which they were applying direct pressure.
Left and the...
It doesn't say keep doing it until they fucking die.
public information officer called me back up. He said, can you come to the chief's office? And I returned. You should know, we had a very good working relationship, he and I. He says, you got to see this. And he showed me the footage taken from the girl's cell phone at the scene. And he says, I'm going to call in the FBI. And I said, Chief, don't you think you're jumping the gun here? Let's put the brakes on. I go, we don't know if this thing has been doctored. We don't know if it's authentic. Why don't we wait until we see all the other footage, all the officers' body camera footage leading up to this, any other type of footage off of any other systems available before we call in the FBI? And he said, no, but it's a decision that I make, and it was 3 a.m. So that's what changed the game.
3 a.m. The chief of the police says we're going to turn this into the FBI. Does that seem abnormal to you, in your opinion?
Much. They've never came in before, ever. Okay. So at that point, everything changed in that all the video evidence for us to see was locked down. We never had a chance to view it, and truly the first time I saw any of it was on television during the officer's criminal trial.
Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's murder trial began on Monday. Chauvin is charged in connection to the death of George Floyd. Floyd died last May after Chauvin allegedly kneeled on his neck and head for nearly 9 minutes.
Chauvin is in the courtroom, but America's on trial. America's on trial to see if we have gotten to the place where we can hold police accountable if they break the law.
Of course, the prosecutors are going to come out with using the video. Now, the defense, of course, is pretty sure that they're going to try to poke a hole in that and say, no, George Floyd had drugs in his system, he had other medical conditions, which are more likely to be the cause of his death than Derek Chauvin.
So, Liz, how does the media handle this video at the time as you're sitting back and watching it all unfold?
Yeah, so this was very different, really from the beginning. Normally, we get more context from our, so-called leaders. Instead, you could tell there was this, fanning of the flames that happened right from the get-go, talking about how this wasn't a part of police training. You have the mayor apologizing to Black America. When in fact there are 4 police officers on scene of mixed race, a Black police officer arrests George Floyd, just all these things that were not.
Guys, sometimes there's Black police officers that do bad things. Did you think about that? I bet you guys didn't think about that. I don't give a fuck, dude. I'm sorry. It's very simple. I don't like you if you're a cop. I don't give a fuck what your race is. I don't like you if you're a cop. I don't like you if you're a cop. Being a Black cop that kills people is still bad, actually.
Not matching up with what I knew enough about the case, but more than anything, how much was hidden. Kept documenting all of these things that I just knew something was not right, but I was also bringing it to the attention of reporters who were covering the story, because I was not, and it seemed they were not interested. Instead of actually focusing on the facts of this case, they went ahead and just wanted to dive into this very divisive and dangerous narrative.
They terminated them all within 24 hours. By Derek Chauvin's request, we never grieved his termination. He said, I'm not worried about the job. I want to keep my livelihood and be cleared of any wrongdoing, but I'm not interested in coming back as a Minneapolis cop despite the outcome. So we never filed a grievance in Chauvin's case. We did file a grievance for the other 3 officers because, again, if you're going to, the internal discipline is completely separate from any type of investigation over the death. If they would have been ultimately cleared in these trials, it comes back to only the evidence they knew at that time, and there was 0 for an investigation. So we did.
In their eyes, it was the video?
Yes, that video off the phone.
So in your opinion, at that time, do you think something's amiss? Is this unusual? Are you like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. Again, I handled a number of these over a number of years. Yeah. This was an anomaly. Nothing like this had ever happened before.
He quickly rises to sort of this martyr role, which is interesting because there's a lot of information out there about him. And this is not to say that this isn't a tragic situation that happened. He didn't deserve to die. Nobody's here to say that, but there's just a lot to be said about what was kept from the public. He was in and out of prison most of his adult life. He was a felon, and in fact, the suspect in a couple of sexual assaults that took place that still to this day no one has reported.
This is the same energy as, do you know people in Gaza are homophobic? Are you dumb? Are you an idiot? You can't just kill people because they do bad things. You can't just send cops and kill people because they've done bad things.
reported on, and also this arrest in 2019, which is so similar. He can't breathe. He's not complying with the police. He's has to be taken to a hospital because he nearly overdoses in that situation.
Open your mouth. Spit out what you got. Spit out what you got.
Yeah, he was the subject of an undercover.
Isn't it so weird that this time they were able to get him help, no problem, but the other time they weren't? Isn't that just further proof that those police officers acted improperly and killed him? Also, where's the source on this? Where is the source on that? All I saw was a video of him being told to spit out what's in his mouth.
Cover drug investigation, and instead you have the chief talking very shortly after this incident. He says, we don't know George Floyd, we've never had any interactions with him. That was just another lie. Thomas Lane that approaches the vehicle, but a clerk at Cup Foods that calls because George Floyd had allegedly passed a counterfeit $20 bill.
Okay, so at what point does George Floyd say, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe?
It happens within minutes of Thomas Lane and Alex King getting on scene.
God, I'm claustrophobic, man. You ain't breathing or whatever you in the car. Can you get me in the front? Please. No, you're not getting in the car. I'm claustrophobic. I was in the car. Okay, man, okay. I'm not a bad guy, man. In the car. I'm not a bad guy. Oh, man. Open my double. Please, officer. Please. Sit. Please. Take a seat. Please, man. Please. No. Take a seat. I can't choke. I can't breathe.
Clearly does not want to be arrested, and he has kind of a very similar, script almost as to what transpired in 2019. That's why we put the body camera footage.
The reason that police officers are supposed to be allowed to have guns and have the authority that they have is because they are also supposed to be held to a higher standard. They are supposed to be able to deal with high stress situations. That comes with the job. You should be able, as a cop, to know what to do if you are in this situation. They had him on the ground. He said, I didn't want to get in the car. I don't want to get in the car. I can't breathe. Okay. They put him on the ground, give him the fucking foot restraints, call EMS, and just wait with him outside of the store. At one point in the video, at one point with the body cam, he's sitting on the concrete on the sidewalk, handcuffed. Give him his foot handcuffs, or feet cuffs, leg cuffs. Whatever, restrain him so you don't feel like you're being threatened or whatever, and just wait for EMS to show up. They'll take his blood pressure, they'll check his oxygen, they'll check everything that they need to check. He's good to go, and then you can take him. Once he gets a clear bill of health, and he's safe, and he's good to go, then you can put him in, or transport him with the EMS vehicle. The solution to someone not complying for one reason or another reason, shackles, should not be shoving them into the fucking car. You have all of the power in this situation.
In the fall of Minneapolis, because nobody ever got to see any of that. So that's why the first 20 minutes of our documentary is in fact, here's what actually really took place that day.
And in that documentary, you guys zoom in on him swallowing something. What is that perceivably?
More than likely, was drugs. But they were trying to pass it off basically as that it was gum in George Floyd's mouth.
Interesting.
And there were drugs found,
so scary. Oh my God, drugs. Can you believe people would take recreational drugs? Anyways, I love alcohol and beating my wife. My name is I am cop number 536. I don't care. I don't care. I just don't give a fuck at all. I can't believe anyone cares. I can't believe anyone gives a fuck about people doing drugs.
His car, on him. The autopsy is something that also could have been released within 12 hours. The autopsy is complete on George Floyd. Still to this day, the only official autopsy by Dr. Andrew Baker of the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office. And that autopsy shows there's no strangulation marks on George Floyd.
This is literally, we're just lying now. Okay.
asphyxia, so many things that would also have countered that video pretty quickly. They have to wait for a little while with the toxicology results, which show 3 times the lethal limit of fentanyl in his system, methamphetamine. He has very large organs, blockage in his heart. He has a paraganglioma, which is a tumor in his hip. He's been described to me as, sadly, kind of a ticking time bomb. Instead of getting that medical evidence out there, it's withheld and released on the same day that George Floyd.
Video in December.
This Ghost Tank, thank you for 42 months.
Floyd's family releases their own, they call it an autopsy, but it's really anything but. It's